Hey, what's up, guys? In this video, we're going to go through our protocols on clearing providers for public safety agencies for fitness for duty and responding and working a shift. So if you are not sure whether or not you should be working, and anytime you start your shift and during your shift, these things should apply. I will say the recommendations do change and evolve over time, so please make sure that you are checking the most current version of this document. You can go to the website link, which is bit.ly/COVID911, and that's going to give you the current protocols that we are working on. Also, if you are technologically advanced and you've got your phone, there is a QR code there that you can scan as well, and that's going to get you to the most current version of this. So basically, in going through this, by reporting for duty, so for showing up to work, you're affirming the following things. All right, so when you come in for a shift or for duty and you're working, for one, you want to make sure that you have checked the current version of this document. So at the beginning of your shift, go to that website or check the QR code and make sure that you are familiar with the most current version of this. If you printed this thing out, it changes day to day, sometimes multiple times a day. So we're staying as current as we can with the documentation coming out from the Health Department and the CDC. So just make sure that you're checking this and looking at a current version. All right, so for one, you want to make sure that you have self-monitored or checked your own health at home. So before you came to work, you've gone through this and made sure that you were healthy and fit to come in for your shift. Make sure that you satisfy all of the criteria in this document. So if there's anything that is questionable, you want to contact your supervisor or your designated infection control officer or whoever at your agency is in charge of making that determination. So if any of these things change during your shift, so maybe you feel fine when you go in, but all of a sudden you start feeling bad, you start having a fever, you start coughing, anything changes while you're at work, then you want to put a mask on yourself, wash your hands, and stay away from others and let your supervisor know. Most likely, they are going to recommend that you go home or follow up with a physician or with your infection control person just to make sure that everything is okay. Chances are it's just allergies or something else, but we want to make sure that we are being very careful and we don't want to risk getting others in the public or other people that we work with sick. So just make sure that you follow that. All right, so what are we using to determine whether or not we are healthy and fit for duty? So for one, in the last 24 hours, so from whenever the start of your shift, in the last 24 hours, you should not either have a fever or have felt like you've had a fever. So if you didn't have a thermometer to check, then if you feel like you had a fever, you should not be at work. So that lasts for 24 hours after you have not had the fever. Or if you have a thermometer, you want to make sure that you have not had a fever that's over 100 degrees. So if either of those things are true, then you need to not be at work until you've gone at least 24 hours without those symptoms, and that means without taking medicine to lower your fever too. So if you had a fever and you took Tylenol or Aleve or something like that to lower your fever, that doesn't count. You have to have 24 hours without medication and not having a fever. You shouldn't have a cough. So if you have a cough, then you don't need to be at work. Now, the occasional clearing of the throat or something like that from allergies, that doesn't really count as a true cough in what we're talking about here. If you're not sure, contact your supervisor or your infection control person and they can help walk you through that. If you're having trouble breathing, so any kind of respiratory problems, breathing problems, anything like that, then you shouldn't be at work. And if you have a sore throat. So while this could just be a normal illness, maybe it's the flu, maybe it's whatever, we don't know, so we need to be safe. So you shouldn't have any of those symptoms in the last 24 hours. All right, then in the past 14 days. So in the past 14 days, you should not have traveled to a high-risk area. What is considered a high-risk area is coming up in a second, but those do change pretty regularly. My guess is in the next couple days, that whole section is just going to come out completely, because as more and more states in the US get added to that list, it almost becomes a little bit irrelevant as to whether or not we're considering high risk areas. So right now, it's still valid, but at some point, that question is probably going to go away once every state becomes considered a high risk area on that list. So we'll show you what those are here in just a second. Also, you should not have had any medium or high risk exposures. So we'll talk about what an exposure is in another section, but as long as you have not had a medium or high risk exposure in the last 14 days. If you have, then you're going to go through the protocols that we're going to talk about in the other section with what to do after an exposure. You shouldn't have been diagnosed with COVID-19, obviously. So if you've been diagnosed with COVID-19 in the last 14 days, or if you've had symptoms of that, and even if it's longer than 14 days, you want to be, I think right now they're saying 3 days after symptoms if you've been diagnosed that. So whichever is longer. And again, that changes. So just check in with your supervisors or your infection control or your medical people before you come back to work. And also in the last 14 days, you shouldn't have any household members that have been diagnosed with COVID-19. So if they live with you and they've got it, there's a higher risk that you have it. So you're going to be self-isolating for that 14-day period as well. All right, so here are the current high-risk areas. I'm not going to read all of these to you because it is a long and growing list. So for a lot of us, just check this list, check it often. But again, by the time you're watching this video, this list may be gone altogether. So just check the current document here and make sure that you're aware of this. So there is your list. And how they decide who goes on this list right now, they're looking at states that have over 500 cases or widespread community transmission. So any kind of community transmission or any country that's on a level 3 notice is going to be included on this list. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you click subscribe, you'll get a notification every time we upload a new video with this topic. Also, make sure you check those links because this information does change rapidly. So check the links, you'll get the most current info. And if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments and I'll try and get back to you with an answer as soon as I can. Thanks.